Welcome to the Hassle of Hair, episode 85. If you're watching the video, it's a little different today. Switched it up to make it a little bit quicker, had some stuff to do, but we'll get back to normal on Thursday. But today's episode 85, Diego Velasquez, fourth tallest man in Los Baños. I mean, what I've seen, going by my credentials, right? And also local realtor in Los Baños. I had him on today to talk about everything that's going on in the stocks. I really wanted to know about it. We start off talking about stocks and about GameStop and everything going on, but then we kind of just go and ramble into, I basically call it stoner talk for sober dudes, and I guess that's what I'll call this episode. So it's stoner talk for sober dudes. I enjoy talking to Diego. Always have a good conversation with them. After listening to it, after listening to it again, I could tell that he's way smarter than me, and sometimes I hate the things I say, but I will not edit anything that comes on my end. If I say something, I won't edit it. I'll keep it in. I will adapt and I will change as I do this podcast, right? My views on life and my views on things will probably change. So don't hold me to one certain thing. And to our sponsors today, we have two this month. We are powered by Adaptive Sessions. Adaptive Sessions, a personal training by Diego, who's certified in kettlebell workouts, and also he will hold pads for you and tell you and show you the fundamentals of Muay Thai. And he's an overall just good martial artist, never stops training. The guy's always learning. My kind of people is just always learning and getting better at everything, right? And then we also have Monterey Travel Lodge. You guys, if you go on your next day and mention the Hassle of Hair, they will give you 12%. I can't talk right now. 12% discount on your stay. So go and check them out, guys. I will have all their links below. And please, if you want to support the podcast, there's multiple ways you could support. You could subscribe. You could leave a review. You could leave a comment down below. You could share our podcast. You guys, if you guys just share, it means the world to us, right? If you share by word of mouth or if you share by social media, it does the world. Like, it gets our podcast known faster, right? Because we are going to grow eventually. We are growing. It's crazy the support that we've had. It's amazing. You know, I'm the kind of person that never really sits back and look on how much I've grown or how much we've grown in our podcast, right? And with anything, I will never sit back and look at what I've done. And speaking about Adaptive Sessions, Diego actually messaged me and told me to work on gratitude. So I will work on my gratitude, and I will tell you guys, I can't appreciate you guys enough. Everybody that's been joining in on the Natty Nipples thing. Complete joke, by the way. The whole Natty Nipples, it's a complete joke. We're just going back and forth. We're actually, I met him before. He's a really cool guy. It's funny. It's entertaining. But everybody joining in on that, everybody sharing our stuff. I can't thank you guys enough. You guys really make this worth it. And I love you guys. I love you guys for it. So, yeah, the best way to support us is to share any way you can. And go ahead and subscribe, like, notifications on. We are 6 away from our goal of 100 subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed yet and you're listening, go ahead and subscribe, guys. Love you guys. And also, I am producing Nashi, my training partner, who's a martial artist. I am producing her podcast too. So go ahead and go to her Instagram if you love podcasts and want to listen to another one at nasty.nashi on Instagram. And her link's in her bio to the Happy Dagger podcast, guys. Episode 1 is up. Episode 2 is going to be up to as this is playing. So go ahead and check that out. I love you guys. Go and support those that support us. Support the oh man, I am losing my mind right now. Support the sponsors. And yeah, I love you guys. Have a great day. Enjoy the week. Keep on going, guys. Don't ever give up on your dreams. And that's so motivational, right? I'm so motivational. It's so crazy. All right, love you guys, and have a great day. Peace. Enjoy. Chef, there you go. Iron Chef. Iron Chef. This is.
Oh, the Asian dude.
Yeah, yeah. See this guy. All right, all right. Well, guys, this is a bonus episode of the Hassle of Hair, and today we got with us a real estate agent, Los Baños real estate agent, Los Baños farmer, fourth tallest man in Los Baños, Diego. I don't even know your last name, dude. Diego Velasquez. Diego Velasquez, and future Muay Thai world champion.
When I decide to do it.
Like it's something you're just like, all right, I guess
I'll do it now. I'm bored.
Dude, no, the reason why I wanted to do this episode is because everybody's talking about the GameStop trading, right? So it started with GameStop, and it started with Robinhood, a Robinhood app, right?
Yeah, I mean, so it's an interesting narrative that's going on right now. It's still, kind of developing, but the story so far is actually really intriguing if you really look into it. So basically, in terms, of what's going on right now, if people, aren't aware of what's going on, basically GameStop has had over a 1,600% return on investment if you bought last month, which basically is basically a skyrocket, right? You could have turned like $500 into like $60,000 in just 1 month, which is insane, right? Not normal, but basically what's happening is when it comes to the market, there's retail investors now that basically have access to investing like never before, right? So basically, if we go back, 10 plus years, if you wanted to invest, there wasn't much going online. Usually you had to go through a broker. You called up your broker, tell them, hey, buy 10 shares of GameStop. All right, sick. Hang up the phone. Your broker, goes and buys your shares for you with the money that you have in the account, with them. Now, literally at the, the palm of your hands, you can just open your app. Boom. You want GameStop? Type in, your order at what price. Boom. You buy GameStop. Set it. It's done. You're ready to buy GameStop, right? So basically, we have this new kind of dynamic that's happening in the market where everybody could do it at the palm of their hands, right? So when it comes to the other side of it, the hedge funds, these are the big institutions, right? Big, they're basically holding millions, if not billions of dollars worth of, other people's capital, and they're basically, investing it for them. And these guys are usually kind of the people that decide what's going to happen in the market in some way, because they have so much influence and power what's going to happen with, the amount of cash they have available to them. They could basically move markets themselves. So when it comes to a company like GameStop, these hedge funds do what's called shorting. Shorting is basically the opposite of buying a stock. When you buy a stock, you buy it in with hopes that you're going to buy it at a certain price and you're going to sell it at a higher price that you initially bought it for. When it comes to shorting, you're actually betting against the company. So if you think GameStop is going to go down in value because you don't think this company has a future, then you'll short it. The way this works is you actually borrow shares from someone else. So let's say you had 100 shares of GameStop, and I'd say, hey, I'm going to borrow your 100 shares of GameStop. I will give you back your 100 shares of GameStop. And then obviously it will incur interest or something. So there'll be more for you, kind of incentive for you to let me borrow your shares.
So essentially you're not using your own money.
Basically, no, you're not using your own money. It's basically you're leveraging someone else's assets, right? So I'm using your shares. I sell your shares, right? Let's say I sell your shares at $10 per share, right? So basically that would give you $1,000 in cash of value. But technically, I'm in the same exact spot as I started out, right? Because I owe you $1,000 worth of GameStop value, right? Because, at this value of $10 per share, 100 shares, I owe you $1,000 worth of GameStop at that moment. However, if GameStop had gone down in value, let's say to $5, I could then repurchase another 100 shares at worth $5 each, give you your 100 shares, but because they were cheaper when I bought them, I could pocket in the difference. So basically, I would pocket in a $500 gain for myself without having to put up any money, out of my own pocket because I used your shares to begin with. So that's all good and all right if it works out properly. But the problem starts to rise when the shares actually go up in value. So in this case, if GameStop had gone up from $10 to $20, I still owe you your 10 shares, 100 shares of GameStop. However, now they're more expensive for me to buy. There's no way I could buy 100 shares at $1,000 if it's worth $20 per share. Now I'm going to put up, $2,000, so now I'm going to be losing $1,000 in this whole trade to cover my own short position because I still owe you it. You're going to, sorry, go ahead.
So the person that's lending in the money is losing money?
No, in your case, you will not lose anything because you will always be guaranteed your shares back to you. You could do at any point, you could do what's called a call, like a margin call. Basically, if the value of GameStop's going up and you wanted your shares back, so you could, if you wanted to sell for yourself or whatever, you could do a call on me where you say, hey, you know what? I want my 100 shares of GameStop, give them back to me. Right. Yeah. And this is all kind of dumbed down and all, obviously not this simple, but, so at that point, well, I need to now give you your 100 shares. But because they're more expensive, it's going to be, I'm going to be losing money myself because now I had to put up an extra $1,000 just to give you back the same amount of shares that you let me borrow that I sold at 10. So while shorting has, potential upside, if you have, confidence when it's going down, it actually has an unlimited downside where you could actually lose an unlimited amount of money because in theory, a stock could go up in value forever. There's no cap to how far it could go up in value. But, if you bought a stock, normally the worst that you could lose is your initial investment. If I, threw $1,000 GameStop and the stock went to zero, they went out of business, they're gone, I lose my $1,000. That's it. Right. So basically, in this case of GameStop, and then, obviously there's other companies that we don't know. The movie theater company, AMC, BlackBerry, Tootsie Roll has been kind of also affected, which is kind of funny.
What the fuck?
Tootsie Roll, yeah. It's like they had quite a bit of attention as well. Nokia, whatever. So, but mostly the big ones in the news are GameStop, and then you'll also see mostly AMC as well. These companies, hedge funds have so much confidence that which I could kind of, agree with. GameStop, their model seems very outdated, right? It seems very unlikely that within the next, 5 to 10 years that GameStop could be, at least at its current state of how it functions. I personally don't think that they had much of a future. You could argue that they had enough cash on hand right now. If you actually, did more analysis on GameStop where they could have bought themselves out of debt and they could have stayed in business. But how long would that last, right? So that's where your intrinsic value starts going, well, this is where it kind of hurts because this is where I was discussing with friends. I think it was last year on October when it was around $10 a share. I was man, I don't know, because there's some news that came out for it that they got a new it was a new chief executive officer, I think, or someone for their company, and then they had some sort of Microsoft deal going on. And, it bumped up their share price by 30%. And I was looking, I was oh, that's interesting. And we're all joking, I think maybe we should jump in on GameStop, guys, especially since, there's a high short interest in it. Because usually when big companies short a company, they have to report it publicly, right? So if you really do your deep dig-ins onto the Securities and Exchange Commission website, you could see what, or even the company websites themselves, like Melvin Capital or Citron. You can actually see the reports of what their new position is when they start shorting companies. GameStop short interest was at least over 150%, and the shares afloat was a very high short float. So that's what it kind of got my attention before, last year, where I was I don't know, it seems ridiculously high. Even if I don't believe in the company, shorts have to cover their position eventually. And when that happens, there's a lot of buyers that come into this stock, right? If you look at the dynamic like that, it's going to be millions of dollars is going to be pumped into the stock eventually, which will inevitably drive up the price because there's going to be a massive amount of buyers coming in, when they have to eventually cover their position. So I never ultimately went into it. None of us did because I was like, I don't believe in the company. But these hedge funds, they were shorting it because they could short it, basically hammer it down. And this is like a case what happened to Tesla too, years ago, where when Tesla was on the verge of bankruptcy, hedge funds were just shorting it, just beating it up, dude. Like imagine you're just like in a street fight, these guys are just rowdy, just
punching it.
just like and they're just like screaming, just fight back, and it's just like you're just sitting there, these poor companies just can't take it, and you're just like, it's brutal, right? Because they could literally just beat up a stock price. It's like down like massively, and it hurts the company massively, which is why I don't like the idea of shorting a company, because you're basically profiting off someone else's loss. Like it's very like douchey, right?
What would be so what would be the good, like what would be the reason for it? Is there any good reason to do it? Like it
to
like,
short a company, you make money. You can make money. Like
but
if you feel confident.
But for the whole grand scheme of like business, right? Are they just doing it to businesses that are not gonna make it? Like they think 100% they're not gonna make, like GameStop. You're right. GameStop, you're right. It's the video game industry is going to digital. Like it's eventually in 5 years, it's just going to be all online buying, right? You're not going to need to go retail in general is going to go to online in like 10 years, where everything is like, you're only going to see big companies like Target and Walmart and all these other smaller companies like GameStop and like JCPenney. Well, JCPenney's is already gone, right? Where they only sell one thing. I think those specialty specialty retail. That's hard to say, dude.
Specialty retail.
Specialty retail stores are gonna go like completely. You're not gonna see any of them anymore. So it's just like, let's get rid of that business, but at the same time, like you're fucking up someone's livelihood, right? Are you?
Yeah. Well, because like. Well, I mean, again, this is all perspective, right? Because like the reason why hedge funds will short, companies, because they have a very high conviction that this company is not worth what it is now. It's worth way less. If not, they're worth nothing, and they should be going bankrupt soon. They're not going to do it just willy nilly, right? Because they have a lot of money for a reason. They take very calculated risk, and most of the time they're winning, right? So in this case, with GameStop, what happened is Reddit ends up coming in, right, with their subreddit. It's Wall Street Bets. They're mostly known for basically just being degenerate gamblers on there, where basically fucking just YOLO into like a stock. Just fuck it, I'm throwing in 500, $50,000, $100,000, all into like call options on let's like Tesla or something. Wish me the best, right? And maybe some people on there have came out successful with their their gamble, but they're usually always out of the money kind of bets, right? Damn, good luck to you, right? Because it's very high risk, where it's most likely they're going to lose all their money, but if it pays off, it paid off very handsomely. So some user on there, I forgot which one it was, I don't want to credit the wrong user, but they basically were like looking into GameStop. It's like, this is like very strange that how heavily shorted GameStop is, especially knowing their cash position that they had, that it was almost impossible to be that heavily shorted for such a company like GameStop. So basically he goes on, forum, tells people about his research he done on GameStop, saying, look, just fucking buy GameStop. Tell your mom, tell your friends, tell your grandma, buy GameStop, hold GameStop, because eventually these shorts are going to have to cover the position very soon. When that happens, it's going to pump up massively. Started off on well, pumped up all the way to $30, right? Which is actually crazy, because that's about $300 return on your investment if you bought in. Which right there, now you could argue like, okay, that's fundamentals. But then it started catching more traction. Where when the fiasco first started, the users on there were probably like maybe 1 million or less, and now it's reached up to like 7 million users today on that like subreddit. How much people just started pouring in there, because now they're seeing, oh shoot, now it just became a statement at this point, like, screw these hedge funds, just fucking pump GameStop. Because obviously GameStop's not worth there's no way GameStop could be worth at what it's valued at today, at $300+ a share, right? So this became and this is why I like the story a lot, because it became a narrative of not just fundamentals, but now it's literally just sticking it to the man. Just fuck you, man. It's just like, because hedge funds have so much power and influence, and now like us retail investors usually, always get the short end of the stick. And now the fact that all the, a collective people on the internet could come in, the individuals come in and actually, put a massive, blow to hedge funds. And I think they actually like put one hedge fund into like risk of bankruptcy. I forgot which one it was, but they actually like had to liquidate all their other assets just to pay off their debts to their, wherever, like their banks or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy because now people are just like, who cares? Just fucking keep pumping GameStop up, hit it where it hurts, And now the controversy is happening is hedge funds think that the SEC, the Security and Exchange Commission, should come in and actually regulate this, because they're claiming that there's market manipulation, it's a pump and dump, it's blah blah blah, and it's hurting everyone. But in reality, like, it's funny because like when hedge funds get together and like short a stock and drive its price down purposefully because how hard they're shorting it, it's hurting everyone else. No one blinks an eye. But now that the retail investor comes in and starts hurting, the big hedge funds where it hurts, now it's a problem. It's literally just flipping the table on themselves. So now it became like a story of like a Robin Hood story, like, you take from the rich company and give to the poor, kind of deal. But it's nice, right? So, the same thing started happening with AMC, the movie theater company. They started pumping that up too. And now we're just basically seeing what's going to happen next. It's still like a back and forth. And then what's funny too is you start getting these big, rich people come in. Elon Musk coming one day, starts tweeting. He tweets GameStonk and then links the subreddit to Wall Street Bets. Next thing you know, everyone's fucking pouring in more money. Stocks shooting up even higher.
Yeah.
And then another guy, he's a brilliant investor, Chamath Palihapitiya. People might know him because he's the owner of the Golden State Warriors. But he was a big, one of the executives at Facebook before, and he left Facebook. He's a chairman on a company that I personally invested in, Virgin Galactic, and he's also has his own, fund management at Social Capital, where they manage over billions of dollars of assets. And, he's just overall really brilliant guy. I think he'll probably go down as one of like, at least top 10 investors of our time right now.
Yeah.
And he comes in, tweets one day, "Hey guys, give me an idea of what I should just invest in, right? Give me an idea, and I'll throw a couple $100,000 on it." Next thing on Twitter, everyone's buy GameStop, buy GameStop, buy GameStop.
Yeah.
Then he comes back, replies to a tweet, just bought a fuck ton of GameStop call options, right? And now, like, wow, this fucking billionaire also started buying GameStop, right? So now that drove up the price even further now too, and it started going even more and more into it. He already sold out of his positions though. He profited, quite a bit. I think it was like $500,000 to like $1 million. But then he ended up donating those proceeds to, I forgot who donated to. I think it was like Barstool Sports or something. But that was a funny narrative too. It's like, so it's just kind of like a little ongoing story that's going on right now with GameStop to see what's going on. And now people are trying to pump, like, all right, what's going to be the next pump? Which so like targeting companies with very high short interest just to buy them, which is, it's neat, but it's kind of like nerve wracking too, especially at least for me, because I try to like zoom out of the whole situation and really say like, okay, what's going on here? What can we, predict what might be happening, right? And it's interesting because now, like, you can't really look at a lot of stuff for fundamentals, at least at this moment, because everything is just absolutely out of valuation. So you have to like, where do I put my money next? Because people are like worried of a market crash. What could be the next boom, big stock and all that. So you really have to do your research on whatever you're going to invest in. But then also as a market general in the whole, because of this whole GameStop situation, money, at least in my view, money that's flowing into those companies like GameStop is money that's not flowing into anywhere else in the market. So it's almost like, imagine like a vortex kind of situation where all the GameStop's right at the center, like a black hole, and all this money just coming out from people are probably selling their positions, other things, because they're like, all right, let's put in the GameStop, and it's just sucking out money from every other like, good company in the market, as driving down the whole market overall, which could potentially cause some sort of silent crash. I would call it silent crash, because it's nothing like specific. It's very like, it's going to be crashing, but in a very quiet way. And that's, kind of something to look out for. But then also you could look at it in a more optimistic way and say, well, this is creating perfect buying opportunities. If you wanted to buy into other companies, that you really like, then this you could see them as a discount valuation right now. Like if you want to buy Tesla, Tesla's gone down, like at least on Friday went down quite hefty bit. You could be like, all right, sweet, I could buy some more. Don't mind if I do. So that's
Yeah.
also another way to look at it. But it's fascinating. My only regret's not buying in. I kind of, I mean, right? That's like,
Yeah.
but I did throw in a couple. I did throw a couple $100 just for like I'm like 100% ready to lose all that money and let it go to zero. But now I just kind of joined in just to be a part of it at this point. It's like,
Yeah.
you know what? Just send a message right along with the people like fuck shorting. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
In short,
So, like, what I take from this, like, we've talked about it a little bit, right? I talked about how cash. I told you about like how I think like money is kind of like it's kind of like dying, and you've explained it to me that money is the cheapest thing you could own, right?
it's
Like the
definitely the least valuable thing you could own in terms of wealth, right? Because cash, um, so the big one question I get a lot from people who are aware of my investment positions, they say, "Why don't you sell out?" And like, you're up a lot on, let's say like this certain company. Why don't you sell out and keep the cash, right? And if we take that example, like let's say for example, I had a stock, it went up and now it's worth $1 million, right? If I sold out on that company, I now have $1 million problem in my hands because now I have $1 million. What am I going to do with this money?
yeah.
It's worth nothing in my hands. It's not worth nothing in your bank accounts, as everyone knows right now. Your bank account's not going to give you. It doesn't matter how much fucking money you have in your account. You're not going to get more than like $2 in it in interest per year. Like it's like abysmal how much interest you get accumulate on it. And you also take in perspective of inflation, right? Normally, pre-COVID at least, the targeted inflation rate that we had here in the United States was a 1 to 2% inflation. Now, in simple terms, if if you had $100 and let's say bananas cost $1 each, you could buy 100 bananas with that 1 year. However, through inflation, if it's now worth 2% less the next year, that same $100 can only buy you 98 bananas now. So now your buying power has gone down, but asset value has gone up in value because now bananas are technically worth more because now the same amount of money you have cannot buy the same amount of bananas. So now bananas, technically are worth more, right?
Yeah.
This is investment for monkeys.
Which I am. No, but no, but like you explained something to me that's so simple but yet so mind blowing. Like everybody thinks debt's bad, right?
Yeah.
Yes, having a bunch of credit debt that you can't afford, it is bad. But then you started talking to me about having debt and how your debt now is going to in 10, 20 years from now, like say because I bought my house, right?
Mm-hmm.
And say, well, my wife and my sister-in-law, they helped, right? They bought most of
Yeah,
it.
they were there. Like, whatever.
but, but that debt is going to be so small, and let's just say even go higher, 40 years. Like if I just stick with my house, my house debt is going to be so super small compared to how it is right now, right?
Right.
Like it,
So,
yeah.
um, yeah. So basically, kind of clarify that. So,
Yeah.
uh, so basically, look at it this way. This is mostly specific to real estate in itself. Where you're correct. Where debt's basically the same thing. It's a monetary value, right? Today's debt is not going to be the same amount as debt in 10 years from now, right? So, like, for example, I told you the debt that you have today, let's say today you were $100,000 in debt. Through inflation, annual inflation of a targeted rate of 2%, assuming it's 2% every year your debt's going to be worth 2% less because cash is worth less every year. And your asset value will most likely either remain the same or if not, it could increase in value. Where even let's say you rented out your house, um, today's rent, let's say you rent it out for $1,500, right? Um, you can now readjust rents according to inflation, where in the future, let's say 5 years from now, you can raise that rent up to $1,800. So you're basically keeping up with inflation. Your money's still going to be growing more and more, But if you just had that money in your hand, your money is going to be worth less. Now, if you were the renter renting out the house, today you could be renting for $1,500, but when money's worth less, right, through inflation, your rent goes up. Now you're paying $1,800, so you're paying even more. So your money's gonna have a hard time keeping up, and that debt is not it's not gonna get any bigger, right? Like today, $100,000 might seem like quite a bit, but what does it look like 30 years from now, right? What
Yeah.
did $50,000 look like like in the 90s? That looked like a lot of money. Like in the 70s, $50,000, you're probably like living. You're a high roller. You were like
Dude,
basically almost a millionaire,
I
basically.
think
Yeah,
my
today.
house, if I could guess on it, and I think I heard my parents talk about it before. I think my household income for my family was like $35,000, and that was
A
my
lot.
dad.
That's quite a bit, right?
Yeah, when my dad
Yeah.
had a job at Pacific Bell, so, which is AT&T now. He
Uh-huh.
was a lineman and climbed poles for them, but before that it was super low. But at the highest of growing up, I think it was at $35,000. Dude, $35,000 now.
You're like working at McDonald's, basically. Yeah,
Yeah.
you might as well
It's
just say like, and that people are complaining about it, right? It's not worth.
yeah.
It's not the same. But like, you look at that in the '90s, where like you're probably or like I keep saying '90s because I was born in '90s, but like let's even go back further, like '70s, '80s, when you're getting paid like, if you want to buy gas, it's like a quarter. And it was like, oh, so if you're being paid like $1 or $2 an hour, like that's really good. Hey, you're doing really good for yourself. Dollar
Yeah.
two an hour now, you're gonna get sued. Some guys fucking chew your ass out. It's like you're abusing me, man. Like it's
Yeah.
whatever. It's like so money is like it's worth basically. It's one of the lowest forms, but the only time where cash is absolutely king is during the market crashes because now you have the funds readily available, in your hand where you could take advantage of the situation. Where if there was a stock market cash and I had all my money in my investments, but you had it in cash, I'm the one that's now going to be in pain. And you could look at the market and say, you're gonna be like, like, well, Jesse eating good tonight, right? Because now you're
Yeah.
gonna fucking go in, boom, 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 buy everything at deep discount valuations. But no one could properly predict any kind of economic situation. Who could have predicted COVID? Who could have predicted this GameStop situation? Who could predict like that? No one can really predict anything with 100% accuracy. So that's why, at least for my personal taste, the general thumb I have is you should not all your total net worth of all your valuation, no more than 30% of that should be in cash. So, like, for example, if everything you owned altogether was worth $100,000, you should not have more than $30,000 in cash. You should
Yeah.
have at least $70,000 in some sort of asset, whether it's in real estate, whether it's your own business, whether it's in the stock market. You should have majority of your money working for you, kind of growing to stay safe from inflation, while you have the other readily available in cash to take advantage of opportunities that could rise up. That's what I usually at least like to recommend people. Obviously, everyone's different with their situations. Some people might have to have more cash in hand because they're kind of just they have a lot harder, maybe more bills, maybe a lot more stuff that I got to take care of. Or maybe some people just they don't have any fucking debt whatsoever. They probably still live at home. They have no worries to probably at most pay like a phone bill. Then yeah, you could probably invest 90% of your money. Just fucking throw it all in, right? Like, what do you have to worry about, right?
Yeah.
You have a good cushion. So like it's really just depending on your situation of how you want to do it. What's most comfortable for you where you have some sort of nice little safety net, but you don't want to put too much into your net, right? Like a lot of people have the problem where when they make a lot of money, they think that they're financially steady because they save a lot of money and they're proud of themselves. So they're like, oh, I'm a really good saver. I never touch my savings account. I just keep putting in there, never touch it. Whatever is in there, it just stays in there. And that's all nice and dandy and all that. But it gets to a point where that money is literally just dead money. Like if
Yeah.
you owned a business and your employees weren't doing any work, you'd probably fire them. You'd probably tell them to get off their asses, get to work. But why don't you do that with your money? You let your money just sit around all day doing nothing. You might as well at least put a good amount of it to like help you grow, right? Help you work, help you do something, right? Because that's basically what's going to define where your position is today as opposed to what your position could be in 10 years from now. And
So
so very, you know,
so like taking dude, I'm so back and forth on how much money really means in this world, right? And if you want to get all spiritual and shit. But like So being able to create money is greater than actually having cash in your hand, right? So you've explained to me before a person that is in debt $100,000, right? And somebody that has $100,000, but the person that's in debt $100,000 is if he or she is able to create money like that, then they're more valuable to themselves than somebody that just has $100,000 cash sitting, right?
Right. So, yeah, I mean, ultimately, the idea of cash is literally money is an illusion, if you want to put it that way. It's just an illusion, right? This paper value that people hold so strongly to is it's just an illusion. I'd much rather have zero cash in my pockets, but have rental properties that are basically producing me cash every freaking month, right? That basically I'm collecting rents left and right. Because now, whenever I need money, I could just basically pull out a line of credit through, let's say, like refinancing home. Like, oh shoot, I need like $10,000. How am I gonna make $10,000 if I was just a standard person, just working a standard job? I'm gonna have to save $10,000. I'm gonna have to work, months, if not maybe even close to a year, to save that amount of money. But if I had asset value, right, you could easily just go, walk up to the bank, fix your eyebrows, tighten up your hair,
Yeah.
look good, tell a banker, hey, I want to refinance my house. It's gone up in value. All right, sick, blah, blah, blah. Type on the keyboard, blah, blah, boom. All right, sick. Well, here, you could pull out $20,000 in equity right there, right then and there. You just pull out $20,000 like that. It's poof magic. It's just literally out of thin air right there. Now you have that money. It's insane. Like, it's really insane. Like, I know it sounds like crazy simple, and obviously it's not absolutely like that simple, but on some level, it really is that simple. Like, if you have valuable stuff, you can literally pull out of money out of your freaking ass for no reason, right? And so,
It's like Floyd Mayweather, right? He everybody says, man, he has to fight, he must be broke. Or even they were making fun of 50 Cent for being broke because he went bankrupt.
right,
But like cash to him doesn't really mean anything because he could constantly create things or it could get him money out of thin air, right? He's
exactly.
built his name, he's built his skill set. There's no worry for him. Yeah, he might be bankrupt at the time, but in a matter of a year, he's probably going to be above what he was a year ago, right? So it's
Right.
just
I mean, it's crazy because I'm telling you, like, the more you actually get into it, there's like such unique situations that pops up when you go beyond the idea of needing to buy stuff with cash. Um, when you have let's say, like, for example, if you wanted to buy a house, right, it's gonna be hard, you know, through a standard situation, you're gonna basically need to put up, anywhere from 5 to 20% down payment, depending on your situation, if you're a first time or not. Um, but let's say average, you have to find 20% down payment of whatever the sales price is. You're gonna have to pay that money up front. You're gonna have to, speak to lender, see what your credit situation is, how much money you make through your job, and all that. It's quite annoying. It's almost a hassle, right?
hey.
Shameless shelf plug right there. um, but basically, if you start really having a lot of valuable stuff, like, let's say, for example, I have no cash on me. Like, fuck, there's a really good deal right here on this home. But I don't have the cash for it. And this is what's really going to separate, the very intelligent investors from the standard investors. Because the intelligent investors will basically find a way, like, where am I going to come up with a solution to this problem? And you could, like, start looking at everything you have. Like, if you even had, like, a massive, let's say, a portfolio of investments, let's say, like, for example, a stock portfolio, there's a special kind of loan that you could get called the pledge to asset loan, where you could pledge up a value of your assets as collateral instead of cash, right? So let's say, for example, I had a $5 million portfolio in stocks. I could have pledged up my whole portfolio and get, let's say, I could get like $500,000 loan and pledge up my portfolio as a collateral for it. They're going to give me $500,000, and I literally had to do nothing for it. The bank just says, "Oh, perfect. You got like $5 million worth of stocks. Perfect. Yeah, here's $500,000. Go buy yourself something nice."
That's
Awesome, sick.
crazy.
Now I could use that money. I could go buy buy property. And this is going back to what you said that not all debt is bad. Debt is bad unless that debt makes you money. It's that simple, right? If a debt's going to put you into a situation where you're going to lose money, then it's bad debt. For example, buying a new car. That car's never going to
Yeah.
produce you money. It's never going to produce you money. You could argue that you need it to work, but then why don't you just buy a shitty rundown car for like $1,000, right? At that, because they'll do the same thing, right? But a brand new car, fresh off the lot, boom, nice, whatever, Cadillac and all that, you're spending $75,000 on it. It's it's not really going to help you out. There's special situations where this could, actually help out, but that's beyond this topic.
That you have to be really into cars and you have to know your cars and like
Well,
all that stuff.
at that point, you have to be some sort of influencer, right? Like,
Yeah.
let's say you're big on, social media. Buying a Ferrari could actually, it actually could go up to the point where you could use that as a tax deductible because it is part of your
Yeah.
brand. You're putting up an image of yourself online saying that I'm a big successful person, like, and then let's say you did like YouTube channel on YouTube, you just put I bought a Ferrari, boom, and you're like doing a YouTube video showing off the
Yeah.
Ferrari, and all that brings in hundreds of thousands of views. You're getting revenue off that. That Ferrari now is a tax deductible because that is now part of your business brand for your image. It was used for an expense to help brand your image. But
Yeah.
for me, the average is normal four-eyed dude, right? Um, it's like it doesn't do anything. It's just at that point it's luxury. Like your tax auditor will laugh at you, say, "Nice one, it sucks for you, right? You
But
just
it's
money,
just
but it's not going to produce money. It's not going to do
yeah.
anything. It's just that Ferrari. If I bought it for $200,000, I don't know. Well, I'm not a car person. I don't know how much to go for, so don't chew my ass out, guys.
Yeah.
Uh, let's say you bought for $200,000. If at most you'll probably resell for is maybe let's say 150,000. You're losing money right off the bat. It's not going to produce you anything. But if you take debt in a way that's going to produce you money, buying some sort of asset where simple example again, you buy a home, you make it your rental property. It is now producing cash flow because now your renters are giving you money per month. Let's say like $1,000 per month. Boom, every month you're getting $1,000. That $1,000 is actually paying off your debt as well. So basically out of pocket, you're not paying out your debt. You're only basically paying the initial investment. But again, if you had the creative situations, you could even, like, for example, the pledge to asset loan. I did not have to pull out any money in my pocket because I conjured that money off using my other assets. They basically, bank gave me this money. I use that money to buy a house. Sure, I'm in debt to the bank, but that debt is going to be paid off by the money I'm making from the house. The house is now paying off the bank. So I'm back to I basically have increased my net worth because I own that house, equitable at least. And now that home will potentially go up in value, which it should be if if you did the proper research on it. You're not going to buy a house that's going to go down in value, right? If you do the proper research on it, it should basically be with the goal that that property will be worth more in the future than it is today. So it's going to be worth more in the future. You're going to get more money off that. If it goes up by $100,000, I've now gained $100,000 off equity. And now if I'm renting it out as well, it is producing cash flow. That's another form of income that's paying off my debt. And now it's also tax deductible because now I can start using that as a business expenses and saying, hey, I needed to use this money for this and that. And basically getting tax write-offs or tax deductibles or depreciations is basically the same thing as basically getting cash. If not, it's worth even more because the more money that people make, the more they're going to realize that it sucks because if as soon as you get hit on a higher tax bracket, you're going to be paying a lot more money and a lot more taxes. So if you could get tax credits to alleviate that, it's worth way more than what people, take advantage for. So
You,
this is where it's a good debt because that debt will help you grow in the future.
you know what's so crazy is that is like the real like okay, it's not currency, but the real currency that a lot of people don't have is information. And growing up, I I'm telling you, Diego, everybody around me was living to pay off their debt. Like in the neighborhood that I grew up in, everybody was in debt to something. They had to get a new car because they had to commute somewhere, and they're commuting to pay off that car and pay off a lot of them didn't even own houses to pay the rent. Like they were living to pay debt that wasn't paying them money, and it's like now with the internet, I think we're starting to see low income neighborhoods, middle class neighborhoods, and upper class neighborhoods. Everybody's saying they're separating, but I think they're coming together because information is getting thrown out there that a lot of people didn't have before, and now you're gonna start seeing like I feel like money doesn't even. I'm telling you, it's weird that I
No,
always
I
think.
know what you're saying.
You
Yeah.
see what I'm saying? Like money doesn't even matter anymore. So it's like when growing up, like my parents never told me, "Hey, um, this is how you make money. This is how you gain money from your debt. How you appreciate money, the stock market, all this shit, right? That you're telling us right now.
Mhm.
It was all about you got to get a full time job, work your ass off, and build a family. And right? Did your parents tell you that at all?
Oh,
Or
definitely, definitely not. I had the same. My parents had the same mentality where you gotta basically just work your ass off, save all your money because you don't know what's gonna happen, and that's it. And or get a good education so you can get a good job, right? But they don't tell you about like what kind of debt you're gonna get into by the education at least.
yeah,
It's like so at that point, like, well, you're kind of breaking even no matter how good your job is, right?
yeah. I
But
mean,
I do
there's
agree with you that information is basically the biggest the most valuable thing that anybody can have is because when you have the right information, anything's readily you could do basically anything with it. If you have if you know what kind of information, like maybe for a business opportunity, you have the information saying what people want or what people, what kind of problem needs to be solved. You have that information, boom, you could create an opportunity right there. You can make, some sort of solution to that. If you have the information of what people are, trends or basically what a company's doing. If you had that proper information, you could rightfully make proper decisions based off that. You could basically take advantage of it to the point where if you're at a massive advantage over someone who does not have that information over you. And it's absolutely like phenomenal that, like you said, the internet today could supply anyone with an infinite amount of information where all you have to do is just look for it. You just got to actually just
yeah.
go out there and find it yourself. Because any question you have, any question you have, there is an answer to it. There's
yeah.
no question that you cannot get answered.
How do you start a podcast? And then boom,
Oh, boom.
I have a
Yeah,
podcast.
yeah, like boom, you'll get bombarded with everyone who's like, sorry, telling you what you got to do, right?
So are we in the Matrix though?
It's
Do you know what I'm talking about? You know how in the Matrix they boot you up and then all of a sudden they give you information how to do karate. Like
is what you're saying. We're like in a simulation. Is that the
no,
question?
no, not the simulation, but you know how they like we're not there yet. We're not there yet. But
Where
like
are we?
how they connect Neo to the basically the Matrix, and they say, all right, we're gonna teach him how to do karate. We're gonna teach him how to do all this stuff. Do you remember that part where
In a way, you
it
could say
downloads
that.
into his brain?
In a way, you could say that that's basically what our phones is, right? Basically,
Yeah,
if you want to learn something, well, I mean, this is the problem too, because now everyone's a fucking smart ass now,
yeah,
right? Everybody has like, the problem with the amount of information we have is you could find, let's say, like, for example, like I write, is it a good idea to start a podcast, right? There will be a lot of information out there telling you like why it's a good idea to be a podcast. But equally, if I look up, is it a bad idea to start a podcast? I'll probably get
yeah.
just about the same amount of information telling me why it's a bad idea to start a podcast. So now it puts you in a like weird dichotomy where you're just like, well, what's the real, like the real information? What's the truth in all this? Like, it's basically, there's a lot of like kind of like, garbage out there as much as there is, proper, um, information. And so I think that because of this, I would say we live in a kind of a world where it's interesting, where it's almost post truth, where everything is actually true. And because you'll basically everybody will give you a reason why they're correct. If you want to go politically, you could say what a lot of people are arguing for one side, they could argue why they're correct, and then equally you could get the other side arguing why they're correct. So it's weird because everybody will just tell you the proper information. Like example for me, I want right now my biggest goal right now is to basically it's just fitness. I want to be able to, get to a certain pound. But I talked through like 4 or 5 different people. Boom, you got to do this. Don't listen to them. You got to do this. You got to do this. No,
Yeah.
no, like, oh no, that's trash. Like I've done that too. It's like, so it's very weird because like, you trust all these people, but you're like, well, which ones? Like, how do I like really, assess the whole situation and really take in all their, information and really like stitch it together in a way that works. And that's where, I mean, if you want to go more spiritually, that's when you just basically got to find your own truth, a truth that just work. That's
You
just
just kind of got to do
It's
it.
got to work for you.
Yeah.
What's going to be true for you will not be true for someone else.
You got to just do it yourself. Like, so in this podcasting thing, if you want to talk about like typing in how to do this, how to do that, people make money on the keywords how to, right? So they make videos on just to how to. And the podcast game, I see a lot of people just doing podcasts about how to start a podcast. And I'm like, that's just a cop out, right?
Right.
When I first started this, my wife saw, a lot of people told me, look it up on how to do this and do that and how to get listeners. I didn't do that because podcasting is so new, right? Even though Joe Rogan all of a sudden made millions of dollars and everybody's doing one, but the actual, like right now we're in the test run of it's skyrocketing now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's sooner or later it's going to level off. And who's going to stay there when it levels off? And it's kind of like I'm just doing it like the way I want to do it. And I think everybody should do that with everything, right? Do it the way you want to do it and learn as you go. The more people I talk to, the better I get at doing this. And it's kind of like martial arts. It's the same way I did martial arts. I went to like several different coaches trying to figure out how to do this thing. And I would go, I would tell them I want to be a fighter. And they're like, okay, just show up. But I never showed up, and then,
I wonder why you didn't become a fighter with them.
Yeah. So finally I found a coach that I really like and at Strike and Amber, she basically guided me on the way, but I was ready to do it. I went through all these coaches. I found which ones are bad, which ones are good. I could have just looked it up online and like, all right, who's a good coach? But I still didn't find one. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go through my journey of trying to figure out how to do this. And yes, we had the advantage of information. We had the advantage of the internet, but at the same time, it's not a cop out. It's not that easy. You can't we're not there yet. Once we're in the matrix and we're able to download information, then we were talking about the other day, how Elon Musk wants to put a chip in our head.
Mm-hmm.
Then we'll be able to do things like that.
You best believe I'm ready.
But dude, like, I don't know, man. I feel like we're headed, like anybody that's 35 and older is really scared, right? Really scared. Maybe even 40 and older. They're kind of scared.
What
right?
pussies, right?
But like 40 and older, because like they're scared of, because they kind of weren't ready for this. I've been on MySpace. I've been on the internet my whole entire youth.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of prepared you for this. And all of a sudden coronavirus hits or pandemic hits and everybody's online. Your grandma's online. Your great grandma's online. And they're like, holy crap, what is this internet thing? Like there's so much chaos and all this stuff, information online, and they're freaking out, right? And and I think everybody's scared of the chaos, what's happening. Like when the Capitol hit, dude, when the Capitol got hit by all those people, we all got videos within minutes of the thing happening, right?
Right.
That's not supposed to happen.
Which is crazy because we're like literally across the entire freaking nation. Like, whoa, that's crazy. This is happening right now.
Right now. Like, it's not supposed to happen like that. Things are supposed to happen. They're supposed to get researched, and you're supposed to get information slowly, because if it's pushed on you real quickly, then you're going to get so many like contradictions, so many lies, and it's not going to be healthy for the brain. And I think we're just getting used to all this information getting thrown at us. And the people that didn't go along for the ride on with the internet wave, which we did, because I'm sure you're on MySpace at least.
I was when I was younger, yeah.
Yeah, so you were kind of like getting gradually built up for the explosion of the internet, which is now that's happening. Like I'm able to connect with you. I was too lazy to have you come over and do a podcast, so I was like, we'll do it on Zoom, right? It's like it's so fast now. It's so easy. Things are changing, and I think that we're going into a whole different age of the world, and it's kind of crazy, right?
Yeah, it's interesting because I remember the other day I was just doing my own, little thinking kind of thing where I just go in my backyard and just wander around like a bozo doing my own thing, thinking. And I was thinking how about kind of like how you said about what the it wasn't necessarily about the capital, but about how when you how basically how you told me right now how we saw the storming of the Capitol, but we were at our house and we saw it within minutes of when it happened, right?
Yeah.
It kind of got me thinking of like how everybody experiences the world in such a different way that it kind of made me think. I wonder if like everyone lives in like their own universe, but everyone's universe is just like kind of just crossing over each other at one point or another. But we're basically experiencing this like the exact same Earth that you're living on is not the same exact Earth that I'm living on because I'm experiencing it a completely different way. I mean, I don't. It sounds. I don't know. This is gonna sound way out there. This is gonna be crazy. All right, but basically, I sound because if you think of it, that situation, right? That storm of the Capitol. There's three ways that people experience that. The storm of the Capitol is happening, and that would be the universe in which all the people are actually right there physically, are like all experiencing it like that. The Capitol is being stormed, which would be you and me, where we're experiencing it, but we're not directly experiencing it. We're experiencing it through a filter of our phones where we're watching the video of it. So yeah, we saw what's happening, but we weren't actually there experiencing it physically. We only got to visually experience what happened there. And then the third way, it would be the storm of the Capitol never happened, where it'd be people that never even heard of it. Maybe someone in like fucking Iceland or in an igloo or something, just like it happened, but they have absolutely no like contact with it all, right? Like they don't even know it happened, right?
That's
but they're still living this
three
life.
different worlds that you're
so like
talking
three
about.
different worlds that happened at once, right there, and it's like really interesting. And I sit there, I'm like, I don't know, like almost like made me like scratch my head because I was like hurting. I was like, I can't even like, I don't even know what I'm thinking right now. But it's interesting. I don't know. It's just really like, and that's why you kind of people just really freaking just assume like these kind of crazy thing ideas of like simulations and all that, where like maybe this is basically like maybe we're just all being simulated, right?
I don't think it's that. I think that we were so disconnected from everybody that we're slowly, like I said, we're going into a different age of the world. Like we're slowly becoming all connected. Growing up, it's crazy. It's crazy to think because what you're talking about is I was literally just thinking about for my childhood because everybody, you know how we're gonna get on a touchy subject, and I hope nobody gets offended. But most of the people that listen are on the same page as I am, or they don't really they don't really care of what I say, right? So Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. It's kind of like there's perspectives. There really is perspectives of you're talking about worlds. Everybody's fighting against each other because they've never lived in each other's shoes, right? So growing up, I lived in a neighborhood that was mostly a Black and Latino community, and I am not the most political person. I'm not gonna get into an argument with somebody about how things should be or what a cop should do or what this person should do. I'm not like that, but I did live and see stuff that was just insane to see at a young age. Like I've seen racism. I've seen me and my buddy, like me, I'm not a criminal. I'm not a somebody that should be pulled over by cops. I used to drive an 88 Lincoln, and me and my buddy, 88 Lincoln, two Latinos in a car, and we used to get pulled over. I got pulled over in that car 3 times. One time my car was breaking down and the cop pulled me over and said she ran my plates, ran my ID. Basically, like I'm in the middle of the road. She didn't even help me. You know what I mean? Like she just wanted to see if I was like stealing the car or something. Like it's just, and I really thought about it like recently. This I wasn't always thinking about this. I seriously remembered like, holy shit, like I was getting pulled over in that 80 in Lincoln a lot. It's like not stereotypes, but profiling, right?
Uh-huh.
And I've seen how families are grow up and what are told to do and stuck in poverty, and they have to make a living and they have to do certain things. I've seen illegal people, not illegal, undocumented people have to work their asses off just to put food on the table, right? And when you see that, you kind of like, I still talk to all my buddies from that grew up in my bad neighborhood, right? That are, I guess I want to say some of them are gangsters, some of, I don't know. I'm trying to like, I don't know what I'm saying right now. I'm like,
Let it out. Just let it out. It's game juicy. It's game juicy.
you know, that are I will never stop talking to somebody because of where they live, because of their money, or how they, even if they're criminals or all that stuff, because they have a whole different perspective on life,
Mhm.
right? And you see these people, like even to think like, oh, Joe Biden's in office, he's gonna save us. That motherfucker didn't live in the bad neighborhoods or low income poverty. You know, like none of our presidents. I don't even think none of our presidents have, until you go like deep into the president, like early in America years, right? They haven't. No one's really struggled. They're not. Our leaders are not people that struggled or went through struggle. Like you really have to go to like mayors and local government to get that kind of stuff. But the high top level, you don't see that many. And it's like, and then when people start talking like, so you get really far right people talking about like, oh well, Black Lives Matter is talking about defunding the police. Why are they doing that? They're dumb. All this stuff. They start arguing with that. It's like, no, you don't know their perspective, but we can't look at those far right people and say like, oh, they're dumb too, because we don't know how their life perspective is. So it's just, I think as we get more connected, we'll realize like, I think all of us were wrong on how we're dealing with stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So the problem I have with a lot of people, like, when it comes to any kind of situations like that, is they get their their perspectives. They're wrong, but they're right.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say it is
We're
because
getting nowhere on this.
so basically, uh, so basically, they're wrong because they don't have the full picture. They don't know exactly what the whole situation. They only know what they've seen on the internet, what they've seen on the news, what they've heard from their friends, or like, people that mimic who they only heard from what the people that they want to hear from, right? Because sometimes when they hear opinion from someone that they don't want to hear from, even if the other person's correct, they're not going to want to hear that opinion. So they're wrong because they don't have the full picture, but they're right because they're making a decision based off the information they were given to them to start with. So you can't fully blame them because they're making a decision only based off the information that they were given. That's the only information they had to work with, right? And so this is the thing where you talk about any situation, right? Some people like will go with Joe Biden, right? Someone might absolutely love him, like, oh my god, thank God he's in office, right? And then someone
Yeah.
might say, oh my god, Jesus, Sleepy Joe's in office, right? Here we go, right? And so
Yeah.
like you'll get these two completely just massive like sides, and who's to say which side is right and who's to say which side is wrong, right? Like maybe they're both right, maybe they're both wrong, but it's just hard because based off certain situations, based off the way people have came into experience throughout their whole lives, they're going to be influenced a certain way. The media, you are what you have consumed in your whole life through media, right?
Dang.
Which is interesting thing, right? Because think about why do you dress the way you dressed? Why do you like what you like? Like you were basically your whole life you're being influenced some way, whether it's through other people, like, oh, I really liked how you dress. I want to start dressing like that. Oh, man, this person seems really happy because their teeth are white. I want to be hygienic too. Oh, this person's really, having a great time because they're athletic. Now I want to play sports or something like that, right? It's really cool. I like how he did that. Your whole life, you've been everyone's been consuming stuff through some sort of media. And by media, it's a very loose term. I don't mean what you see on TV or just on the internet. I mean everything, right? Like you even just observing other people, just experiencing the world. You're observing everything and you're absorbing it, and that's what's creating you as a person, right? And you could kind of, a lot of people say you can't judge a book by their cover, but in some cases you really can. You really can. Like, and I'm not saying a negative way, but like
Yeah.
think of it this way, right? Like a lot of people do that based off right off the bat anyways. Like I know everyone's gonna judge someone, right? If I walk into an office wearing a full blown suit, people are gonna assume I'm a businessman in some way,
He's
right?
important.
He must be doing something, right? But literally, I could just be a fucking homeless person. I just like fuck. I wanted to wear a suit, and I just came in. Like if I came into Muay Thai wearing a suit, like, oh, what were you doing? Were you coming to meet me? No, I just want to dress like this.
But it depends if you're wearing a fitted suit. Like if it's a baggy suit, oh nope, that he's not
Well,
important.
but see that image now already made you assume something else just
Yeah.
based off the image. You didn't have no other information, but based off the image itself, like whether I was wearing a baggy suit or a fitted suit, you'd be implying like thousands of things right at once. Just like, oh, this guy's just like blowing it off. Like, he just want to be funny, or oh, I wonder what this guy's doing just based off how my suit is. I could have been at a meeting, but I wear baggy suits because I have no sense of like classiness maybe. Or like likewise, if you just wear Muay Thai shorts, people are saying, "Oh, wait, do you like fighting?" No, I just like showing off my legs.
Yeah.
It's funny because you already like people will automatically assume everything about you. That's based off what they've seen on media. They've seen people dress a certain way when they do certain activities, so they're gonna immediately link that activity with that appearance. And so this is why it's very interesting, right? When people get to like political situations saying, "Oh, we should be this is the right thing to do because like let's say we got to help these people because this is what we have to do, right?" I'm sorry. And basically, I'm not gonna say they're wrong or they're right, but why do they think the way they think? Maybe their whole life they're just taught this certain way. Maybe their whole life, maybe they were a victim of it themselves, so they feel more strongly about it. And then the other side will say something else, but they say, no, no, no. This whole, let's say BLM, it's not the big pictures. Everybody should be treated differently, not just, a certain class and all that or whatever. Right. And it's like people immediately want to bash them right off the bat. It's like, hey, you're wrong, blah, blah, blah. No, it's not about that. It's not, we have to make sure that this person's right, whatever. But they probably think that way too, because, when they were influenced in their way growing up their whole lives too. So they're going to have, some sort of perspective in it through their own way of living their life. And so this is why it's very difficult to really, have proper conversations with the people, because as soon as you come in and some sort of counter argument with someone, not to say like, 'cause when you want to argue with someone, it's not to basically win in any way. The only reason why you want to argue is because you want to just really learn more about it, right? At least the way I view it, arguments ended up being a sport now, apparently, right? Where if you just got to argue to win, and that's it, right? Where in reality, an argument should be both sides give their thesis. They start, kind of question each other. They start pointing out flaws in each other's logic, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then what comes out of it is a synthesis of both their arguments into one proper, you know, agreement. They're saying, oh, we learned something out of this. We might not still agree on it, what we're arguing for, but at least we learned from the other side of why they think that way. And that's why, I can now respect their decision a little more. And so
You
what were we
need,
talking about?
yeah. No, but we need like,
People don't want to think. That's the thing. People don't
Yeah.
want to think. People do not want to think, and it's just laziness, really, because people want to know what cause should we fight for next, right? It's not like and what do I got to do to fight for the cause? What do I have to do? Or it's it's like no, dude. It's just like you got to really question it. As bad as it sounds, like you say, why is BLM important? As we a lot of people might probably shoot my ass off for that, but like,
Yeah.
why is it important? Why is it not important, right? But you got to really ask these questions that just make people just want to fucking grit their teeth out of anger, because like they gotta, and most of the time they can't give you a proper answer. They'll talk to you in like logical circles, right? There'll be a lot of fallacies in a situation, and it sucks because they don't want to think, for themselves. And I mean, as weird as it sounds,
It's
it's
like,
probably the hardest thing to do is to think for yourself. It's
but
probably one of the hardest things in the world.
it's funny because like Black Lives Matter is a good thing. It's a very good thing, right? You don't want racism in the world anymore. Why is that such a hard thing to push? Like, and on both sides. It shouldn't be this hard, right? And I understand that it's gotten to a point where, I mean, a lot of it was just, a lot of what you saw on media was just because of the pandemic and all that stuff, all the chaos, and media is only going to show you chaos, right? And it's like, I shouldn't say it's a hard thing to do. I should say it's a hard thing to talk about. Like I can't talk about it anywhere. You know, like the people around me, not only on one side or the people on the other side, like talking about how it's wrong or it's bad, it's good or it's bad. You know, and it's not
Mhm.
only just Black Lives Matter. I think it's any situation, all of 2020. I think it was all of 2020, and not
Literally, just say
like
like
anything. Right? There's always a side, and like
I'm
looking
probably the
back.
worst person too, because like I just like arguing just to argue, just say fuck it. Even if I agree with you, I'll just start arguing with you. Just like, all right, what do you got? This is
And
I
I
don't
was
know.
just like looking at every dude. I would stay up until like 1 o'clock in the morning watching the protests like live on YouTube. You could
Uh,
watch them, and I'm just like, I was just sitting back like, this is insane. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
this is crazy, that it's happening in the United States. And I didn't have any side on it. I don't really take sides on anything. I After a while, like after I watch stuff, then I'm like, okay, this is wrong, this is bad. And I was just sitting back like this is a history. Like I'm watching history. Like there's gonna be books, there's gonna be lessons, there's gonna be stuff taught on what's going on in 2020. And it's crazy to think that we're part of it, right? This pod, like people doing podcasts, people doing vlogs and capturing it all. It's so amazing to me, right? It's so amazing.
it
uh,
is
I,
interesting. Yeah,
yeah,
I
but
mean,
I don't know how we got on this subject. I really don't.
this is your fault.
But I don't want people thinking that I hopefully I didn't say anything that was like, that I don't think Black Lives Matter should should matter. I think it should matter.
Right.
I don't
Well, I
think
mean,
I said anything.
the whole point of this topic was not to argue with about. I know we mentioned Black Lives Matters a lot, but it wasn't the matter of that. It was just a matter of what basically you need to understand other people before making like a proper um assertion about other people, right? At
Yeah.
least that's what I got out of this. I don't know.
Yeah.
Basically,
Different different shoes, like perspective on things. Like
yeah. I mean,
Philly.
again, like a lot of people get a lot of there's a lot of touchy situations, and it's a strange. I remember the other day, I was listening to an interesting podcast, and it brought up an interesting situation. Um, it's a touchy subject, right? It's about suicide, right? And I was like, okay, this is interesting. I was listening to it, right? And it's funny because like what was brought up in that podcast was the question of why is suicide seen so bad? And I know, and
Two.
I know why. I know it sounds like well, like you almost want to like punch the guy. Like you bozo, like you don't say it, but like it's just like because like think of it this way, right? You're talking to someone like they come in and say, "Well, guys, it's my I walk in one day, let's say I go see a Muay Thai, right? I'm like, hey Jesse, and you're like, hey, what's up? I'm like, oh, my uncle Jim just committed suicide. It's not like you're like, dude, good for him, right? You're not gonna say that, right? It's not you immediately the
Yeah.
mood will probably be like, oh, I'm so sorry, like, oh my god, that's terrible, right? But it's interesting because like I asked the question, like, why is that? Like, it automatically brings a certain like just melancholy like mood to that word, right? And so people just have an immediate assertion about it because this is what they've been fed their whole life. Like, look, death is bad. If you kill yourself, it's bad because you died, right? That person is dead, and it affects everybody negatively. But how do we know that death is even actually a bad thing? It's not like we all died and we came back like, yeah, that sucked. I never want to do that again, right? It's like,
Yeah.
and for all we know, death could actually be one of like the most like probably like incredible things that could happen to someone in a different level, right? Where you basically shed any kind of worries or troubles or anything that was like harming you. You're basically shed of all that into like another whatever happens if you die. If nothing happens, then you still don't have any pain because you're gone, right? So it's interesting how people automatically attach a negative connotation to that idea of death. But I think the reason why people think it's a bad thing is because someone else's death would affect them personally negatively, right? Like if someone close to me died, I get sad. I didn't die, but they died, right? They died, but I'm the one I get sad because they're gone, right? So now I think it's death's the bad thing, right? But I don't, you know, but if I'm dying, I'm also, I probably wouldn't even be sad about it, right? If no one's really caring about their own death, like, oh, I'm so sad, I'm gonna die. They almost kind of grown to accept it, right? But
Yeah.
everybody else is the one that gets sad. It's interesting. And so if you actually look at other, um, cultures, like let's say, like kamikaze bombers during World War II, they committed suicide. They're seen as courageous people, right? They're basically saying, like, screw it, I'm doing this for my cause. I'm ready to fucking boom, just crash your plane, right? They died, which is interesting, right? Now they're seen as courageous people. But then if someone else has said, you know what, I just can't take this anymore, they're seen as either troubled, maybe in an aggressive sense. People call them cowards a lot. But I think it actually does take, on some level, a massive amount of courage to actually kill yourself.
Have you ever seen the movie the Discovery?
No, I've seen the Discovery Channel.
No, it's a movie called The Discovery, and it's about these scientists find out, like, so it's the great discovery in the whole entire world. The scientists find out what happens after death,
M&Ms everywhere.
and it ends up not being so bad, right? I think it ends up being a world that you end up like really loving. That there is something greater after death, dude. Everybody starts killing themselves.
Fuck it, man, let's do it.
Like it's it's crazy because it's exactly what you're talking about. Like everybody starts killing themselves, and it follows this character. I forget who it is, but it follows this character on like him dealing with that. Like, okay, do I kill myself? Do I, like, how do we know this is right? You know what I mean? And it ends up kind of being like he's already in death. Spoiler alert, sorry. It kind of ends up, yeah. I kind of fucked it up for you.
Thanks.
But he ends up already being in death, and he's replaying it over and over again. And it's an interesting movie because what happens when we do find out what happens after death? Like, that's the great discovery. Fuck all this other shit. Like, what happens when we find out, like, what really, really happens? Because there's no online thing. Like, people
you can't Google that.
Yeah, you can't. Like, like that's the one thing that we cannot figure out. Like, for hundreds of years, but everybody's stuck on, we should fight this person, we should fight these people. They're wrong, they're right, but nobody's like saying, okay, what happens after death? And I'm sorry to say, my perspective on church, it's a lot of brainwashing, right? Fear causes people to spend money. And what happens in church? You're giving them fear. Hell is awaiting you if you don't do the right things. Hey, come with us, give us money so we could keep on having this castle, and for you to sit in and all this stuff. I don't know.
Right. So should we kill ourselves?
I don't know, man. Hopefully,
I had a dream once.
Yeah.
Where it's like weird. I died in my dream, but I was still dreaming, and like the afterlife was. You ever watch Teletubbies? I wasn't a Teletubby, but I was in their world, right? Like, when they come out like their hill bunker and there's like a smiling baby son, like, that was literally the world. What happens after he died? I was like,
how high was that guy that did that show? Like, like, what edibles did that guy take to create the Teletubbies?
I think he was sober, to be honest. Like, I think I could have done it sober.
Do you think so? Oh no, dude.
You don't think so?
A baby and a son? I don't know, but I think it's enough crazy talk for now. Hopefully we didn't get anybody pissed off with this. And
it's all right.
Yeah,
it's all right. No, it was gonna be like too worried about GameStop.
I know we were supposed to talk about GameStop, but we barely even touched it. I think I don't know, man. I think I should do a monthly thing with you. Hopefully. So we'll see.
I got my new schedule now. I wake up and do all my meditations and all that. Get ready to go.
Well, I talked to that chess guy. Remember, I talked to that chess guy that he does meditation every day.
Do you meditate?
Running is my meditation.
What do you think about?
what, what do I think about?
I
Fuck,
mean,
dude.
well, like, what do you reflect on, or what do you do? Like, you just have an empty head, you're just staring at the sidewalk.
What am I? I'm constantly thinking about this podcast. I'm constantly thinking about my family. I'm constantly thinking about fighting. Like,
Was that really meditation then? Because you're supposed to be calming your
yeah.
thoughts, right?
So when I'm calm, I really do think like I really do think about myself. What am I doing? What am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? And how can I make myself better? Right? And like really not I'm not talking about fighting. I'm not talking about I'm not talking about the podcast. I'm not saying things to physically make myself better. I'm talking about like my wrongs and my rights. Like what do I think is right and what do I think is wrong? And like I really debate those in my head. And like I've been really thinking about religion lately, right? And I do think there's someone out there. I think there's something, and there's something that created us. I think there's a I, I guess a God, if you would say, but not the way that church is playing it, because church has gone on so long that it's been diluted, dude. Like I said, castles. You look around and you go to these churches; they're huge. Like
Castles, man.
castles.
Castles.
Dude, have you ever been to Cathedral of Faith?
I've been to White Castle.
But like Cathedral of Faith is just huge church, money just pumped into it, right? Like it's insane. Like Jesus didn't like when you hear the story of Jesus. Jesus was poor. He did like I base my life off of a lot of like Jesus, Buddha, even Muhammad, like all those guys, like they were all poor. They didn't live in the worldly things. So when you see all these religions have these worldly things, these huge castles, a lot of money, dude. I went to one church where the guy freaking drove a Bugatti. Like it just like Maserati, not Bugatti. Maserati. Bugattis are like $1 million, right?
I don't know.
But like it just to me, if you're gonna make a difference in this world, you can't be with physical things. You have to know the people you are trying to help and walk in their shoes. How am I supposed to help somebody that's poor when I live and flourish in my physical, like my luxuries? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, religion is basically just philosophy, right? Religion just kind of got its own word for it because they, believe in a certain entity like a god, right? But the idea of philosophy ultimately was how should one actually live? What is the best way to live one's life, right? There's lots of different schools of thought on that. I personally have taken more on to approach of not what could have been, what is going to happen. It's more of like a stoic approach where you got I personally like the idea of stoicism where basically it doesn't matter what's happened or what's going to happen. You're basically just focusing more on just working in accordance of whatever's thrown your way, whatever nature throws your way. And by nature, I don't mean like Yosemite, right? I mean like basically if people you could use it as a term of what God throws your way, or you could use it as what the universe, whatever the universe throws your way, right? However you want to look at it. That's basically what I mean by the term nature. So just work in accordance with nature, right? Because if the more you fight against it, the more you realize you're going to lose, and the more the worse your life is going to be. So whatever you might see as hardships and all that, you just work in accordance with it. If you freaking lose your friends, lose your money, and lose all your whole social, circle, yeah, it's gonna suck, but you just got to work with it. Instead of moping around and think about what you did wrong, you basically just say, well, this happened. What am I gonna, basically cope with it and move on from here? Which it's difficult. It's a really difficult thing because part of it is, going back to what I was saying when I wake up, the first thing I do when I wake up is negative visualization, where right when I wake up, the first thing I'll do is think of, well, before negative visualization, I do what's called third person perspective. And this is supposed to put in a frame of how small you really are in the grand scheme of things. Like no matter what problem you may have today, right? You think of yourself, you wake up, you think of yourself in a third person point of view, wherever your room is at, right? You think of yourself in your room, picture your room, expand that out, to your whole house. Think of your whole house. Then after that, you expand out even further. Think of your whole street. Then you think of your whole, town. Think of your whole state. Think of your whole country. Think of the whole world. Then after that, and you realize how small you become. The further out you really expand, you start to see exactly how much small, like to the point where it doesn't even matter. Even if you made such a global effort to like change the world, the globally, it is still so small in comparison to like the biggest picture, like the absolute big picture of like the whole like grand scheme of things. So it really kind of helps out thinking like if you think like the other day, like, man, I really fucked up. I shouldn't have said that to this person. Or man, man, maybe I screwed up that interview. Like your problem is really, it's not, it's like such a speck of dust like in the universe, right? So that helps out when it, in a way where he times you up thinking like, all right, whatever problem I have, I could definitely like tackle it because this is a small problem, right? And then after that, that's when I get into negative visualization where the first thing I think, because like I sleep with my dog, like, all right, my dog's here with me, right? I'll kind of like pen a little bit, but then I was like thinking like, all right, I and this is like physically uncomfortable for most people, and like it does feel uncomfortable first, but you get used to it. But you literally just gotta think like, what if my fucking like dog dies? All right, like you gotta really embody that feeling. You gotta embody everything.
Yeah.
Like, what if my like my parents die? What if I lose all my friends? They abandon me. What if I lost all my money? I'm thrown out. I lose my house, everything. And physically just embody everything negative that could possibly happen to you. Like, how would you would cope with it? And it's weird, right? Because like, why would you visualize something so negative? And the point of it is, first of all, it really puts into perspective gratitude of, hey, I have these things. It's like if I lost it, I would suck, but I have it now. So let me actually really appreciate it for what it is, right? Whether it just be your friend, whether you have $20 in your pocket, hey, at least you have $20 in your pocket, right? Like these things, and then
Living in the moment.
exactly, and like really appreciating that because you take a lot of things for granted, right? And then also it kind of helps kind of stirring you up, like in the event where, let's say, yeah, like your parents do die, or my dog dies, right? You physically actually kind of train yourself to actually accept it to the point because you've been really just visualizing so much, so it kind of stirs you up. You're like, all right, I'm emotionally kind of preparing myself for the worst if the worst happens to come. Um, it sucks, like we're to the point like it physically like I don't know why like I want to think about this and it's uncomfortable. But that's when you're uncomfortable, that's when you're really growing your best. That's when like the most growth really happens in a person's when you put yourself in a situation where you don't want to be. Because then once you come out of it, you feel really good. You feel like absolutely like amazing afterwards. You're like, all right. And you feel like, just thankful. Like, oh, as soon as you go down, you're like, wow, thank God. And it kind of like this is why I kind of take into more now when I go in more and like do workouts. Like, for example, Friday morning I do Muay Thai. Coach Amber starts fucking as soon as we start off, it's just kicking our ass with like literally just fucking. I'm like literally already dying like 10 minutes into the work. I'm like, God damn, this fucking sucks ass. Literally at that point, I'm just like thinking in my head, like, I'm like, fuck yeah. I'm like, all right, the more it hurts, I'm like, I'm just taking more like this is like literally such a nice thing of her to do this for us. Like, it's like, yeah, it physically hurts, but I just keep tackling on. Like, even if you think it's rich, like, and on top of that, do some burpees on top of that. Like, oh man, like, thank you so much. Like, yeah, it sucks, but it's literally a gift because, like, you're not gonna do it. Most people won't do it themselves. So having someone able to push you that way, really, just like it's so like you just grit your teeth, like, thank you so much for this. You just like it's weird, and when you really physically just embody and just take in everything which you have coming at you, you just focus on what's happening right there, accept it for what it is, whether you deem it good or bad. Just eliminate the idea of that and just say it is what it is. Let's move forward with it, right? And you basically just take for what it is, and so it helps, right? Because a lot of things that set us up for failure is expectations, and when expectations fail, it drives you downwards, like in a negative way. So um yeah, basically just moral of the story is buy GameStop.
Yeah, and I think we'll end it on that right there.
That is my thesis of why GameStop will hit $500 this week.
Dude, that's crazy. Yeah,
as of today, as of January 31st, I'm saying GameStop will hit $500 by the end of this week.
the dude, thanks for doing this. I think we'll do this like once a month, man, because I think we're getting somewhere. I think
Yeah.
we didn't like. I think we got kind of like off track on things, but
Fuck yeah, we did.
but I think the more we do this, I think it's easier to explain shit, right? Because I think you have a different mind, dude, and like I'm realizing like I have a different mind from a lot of people, and I think a lot of it has to do because I went through hardship as a young age, and people don't even know what struggle is. Some people don't, and when you really hit that struggle and you come out of it, like you said, it's like the best thing in the world. So
Yeah.
I think you're on the I think you're on the
Oh,
right
wow.
the color changed in your room.
I know.
But dude, thanks for doing this. Thanks for being a guest on the Hasselbear. Check out Diego on all social medias, Twitter. What's the other ones?
I don't even have a Twitter. You named Twitter first. I don't even have a Twitter.
YouTube.
It's just
Farmers only.
yeah.
But yeah, but really, guys, I think he's only on Instagram. Boomchka.
Yeah,
Yeah,
boom chicken. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, you find him anywhere. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Peace.
Peace out, people.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, no problem, dude.
Yeah, are you okay with like everything that was said?
Fuck yeah. I know there's no way no one can offend me. You can literally call me like literally a bean or spick to my face and I'll just shrug it off. I absolutely there's nothing that could absolutely offend me.
Okay, cool.
So,
like everything that you said you're fine with?
I think I don't usually I say whatever I believe, yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. That's what I wanted to hear. That's awesome.
If people hate me, they'll just like send me hey messages. I was like, okay, cool.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Oh yeah, if you're gonna be in the morning, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'll be there tomorrow morning.
I still fucking gotta do still trying to hit my goals, so I'm trying to get fucking shredded. Damn it, I'm just fucking just god damn it. Like sometimes just like get so like aggravated. Like I wake up at 1 more like, fuck, it's not Muay Thai. I need to fucking work out. But then I wake up again like at 9 in the morning, like, oh man, I'm tired. I don't know if I want to go.
That's how I woke up this morning. I was like, dude, I don't want to do shit today. Like,
sucks.
I was hurting, man.
Like, I just wish I could work out when I get pumped out of nowhere. Like I don't always get pumped like these hours. I'm like, let's fucking go.
It's all 2 in the morning.
He gave me in the morning. I had like 2 hoodies on. I'm just sitting like this. I'm like, yeah, give me a moment to like really warm up because I'm really not feeling this right now.
Yeah. All right, man. But I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, sounds good with me, bro.
All right. I think I'm just gonna drop this tomorrow. It'll be a bonus episode.
Yeah, sounds good with me, dude.
All right, Diego. Thanks, man.
All right. Peace out,
Peace.
Jesse. Thanks for having me.